So when we start this Candid Cinematography Adda, Season 2, we will do it in a different way, as we mentioned. How we are doing this? When you take up a camera, people talk about techniques in aperture, shutter speed, and all this ISO, lensing, composition, movement, and how you do all these things. How you mise-en-scène, how you do that, how you play with the camera, to tell a story. That comes later. Sometimes you start with that and then you discover the nitty-gritty of cinematography and all these things. But we won't discuss this here. What we discuss here is poetry, philosophy, then camera, brush, painting, light, how we are playing with that. So we can tell the story in a better way. There is a script, we have the literary medium, we are translating that to a visual medium, and we can tell the story in a better way. Learning helps. When you learn, it helps, and we can always improve. We can learn, we can take inspiration from things, and we can always improve. So there can be an emotional scene where you are depicting a scene, emotional scene, a character is saying something, verbal expression, non-verbal expression, and one person, maybe it is one person speaking, it can be a monologue, it can be a dialogue, it can be a conversation, it can be interaction between the characters through movement, through gestures, through dialogue, through staging and blocking, how they are moving around the space, and how we are placing the camera, how we are moving the camera, how we are playing with the camera to capture that scene, and how we are arranging the shots in different ways, different angles, how we are capturing that. Because when we are capturing from this angle, it is conveying something regarding the story. When we are conveying something from this angle, low angle, high angle, we are capturing something. The value and weight, then dramatic weight, then visual weight, visual elements, line, shape, mask, form, and all this texture, and all these things are coming together. You will see that contrast in terms of many things. We talk about highlights, mid-tone, shadows, and then you will see the contrasting colors. I talk about analogous color, complementary colors, and we talk about the color wheel, the color wheel. But one thing is learning the theory. The second thing is how you are playing with it. A cool scene, you are having some elements of warm things, and how it is depicting the story or that particular scene. A warm scene, then there is something in that. So arrangement of things, how you are showing something visually. Now what happens is, some people study the theory a lot, some people get inspiration from paintings, some people they watch a lot of movies. What we do actually, we watch a lot of movies, and we have formed some visual idea of our movie. That is how we want to depict the story, that is how we want to show it visually in a cinematic medium. That is the job of a director, that is the job of a cinematographer, that is the job of both of them working together. Sometimes it's a symbiotic relationship, they are working together, they are discussing a lot of things, and how I have an idea for that movie, how you are technically going to capture, aesthetically, technically going to capture that movie, and we are sharing the visual idea, how it will look. Then one line in the script, it can have many possibilities, combinations, many possibilities, and it's your vision for that particular film, because you are the director, you have something for that film, you have it in your mind. You want to make the film in this way. That is why you are given this job. Then the cinematographer you are choosing, who is understanding what you want to convey visually. So it's a team working together, collaboration. Sometimes, I have mentioned that cinematographers become directors, directors become cinematographers. So you will see that people struggle with this visual medium, people struggle with this, this literary medium, because some people are very strong with the literary medium. So they are very good with the dialogues, they are playing with the conversations and all these things. And you will see that some people are very strong with the visual media. They are capturing something very visually. And what we need in this cinema or storytelling is when everything is coming together. There are people who want to make some loud cinematography which is shouting a lot, accentuated colors, different things, saturated colors. That is how they want to show. There are things like that. Sometimes they deliberately despise art, so they don't want to convey something regarding the artistic thing. But it depends, who is the director, how you want to tell the story, and how you want to depict it visually. So you take your choices accordingly. And laziness and experimentation, sometimes people are very lazy with cinematography, and sometimes you are doing a lot of experimentation. And if we talk about perspectives, we watch a movie, sometimes people who shot that movie, who captured that movie, they actually just felt like doing it. There was a camera and that person wanted to capture the movie in that way, and they did it. And when the audience is looking at it, they are looking the way the story is being told visually. Sometimes cinema students or filmmaking students, they are doing a lot of dissection. They are dissecting the scene, they are looking at the perspectives, visual elements, line, shape, mass, space, form, texture, contrast, and all these things. They are analyzing it, thoroughly, especially the cinematography students who are wanting to do it technically, because they have to work on the light, they have to work on the composition, they have to work on the movement. So how they are doing all these things, they are looking at each and every aspect. If you look at the overview, you have the visual idea of the script and you want to tell the story in that manner. So you're doing this collaboration, but a director's job, a creative leader's job is to take everything into account. And when we are telling the story, if it is falling apart or if it is becoming a great movie, we take the responsibility, because we are starting with responsibility. We want to make that movie. And when we want to make that movie, we want to make it the best possible way we can. So we have our inspirations, we have our preferences, but for that particular story, sometimes we are, doing things we just like to do. That is how we want to shoot it. Sometimes we want to have that feel, we are giving reference. That is the movie we saw. So that is the kind of acting I am looking forward to from the actors. We are giving them the movie as well, so that they can prepare watching the movie. Sometimes we have the visual idea of the movie, we are giving it to the cinematographers. So you watch the movie, you look at the movie, and you feel, how you can create this kind of thing. And if you want to change something, we want to change something regarding the storytelling, scenario. Because so art plays a huge role. It is not like that the moment we listen to this word art, we despise it, it is something wrong. It is not that. We in Hok Aloron or in other places, when we talk about art, we talk about art in a grand way, And when we are talking about storytelling, it is about art. When we are talking about acting, it is about art. When we are talking about cinematography, the visual aspects, it is about art. We have business, we are having a lot of money involved, we are investing a lot of money, and all these things are happening. So many things, the nitty-gritty of the business, the tricks and techniques of the business, and the storytelling aspects, how it is going to the mass, how we are telling the story. So different films, different kinds of films, different ways of making it, different ways of taking it to the audience, and it has its own requirement. But we can always learn from art, because when we are telling the story, we should tell the story in the best possible way. So we can take inspiration from anything. Now there are people who will look at, this is the way that person is talking, this is the way we should criticize, this is the thing he is doing wrong or she is doing wrong, all these things. There are people like that, they are more focused into this. From that, there should be a shift If you are a professional, if you are a veteran, if you are an experienced filmmaker, you know that these things happen, but we still do our thing. But there are people who can misguide you. So what should we do? We should trust ourselves, you know. We know what is good for that movie, and we are making the movie. So we are conveying the story visually the best possible way. For that, what we need to do, we will do. We will go through inspirations, we will go through our research, we will go through our work regarding backstory, regarding the character study, regarding whatever we need to do regarding, you know, shooting it visually. Some people, you know, prepare documents, you know, big files, and they are having meticulous information regarding the movie, for the characters, for the costumes, for the art direction, for so many things. They have meticulous information, you know, the visual idea, the literary idea, costumes, and how everything is fitting together, and what it is, a tiny little thing, and its impact in the storytelling, art direction, production design, and everything, you know. Even in casting, casting is a big part. Most of the thing, you know, casting can do most of the things. So if you cast it well. So the thing is, so we are conveying the story visually, and we have the dialogues and everything, the interplay of this. That is how cinema. So if you look at cinema, first we started with the visual thing, then sound happened and all these things, you know, sound came. Now when sound came, there was a lot of irritation, a lot of criticism and all these things, but gradually we figured out how to use sound, how to play with sound, how to play with it artistically, creatively, you know, so that we can play with sound and music, and everything happened, you know. Then cinema, we saw so many different types of films where we saw different kinds of experimentation. Sometimes people just focused on the narrative, the storytelling, sometimes people focused on the entertainment, sometimes people created movies, you know, something much more than what we see or expect in the you know, screen. And those movies impacted us, you know, it had a lot of impact on us. So laziness and experimentation, we can do experimentation in a lot of ways, and something is happening in the scene, how we are capturing it, and, you know, the poetry of it. Some people are going for poetry, you know, the visual poetry. So it depends on the director too, the way one particular script that director is trying to, you know, convey. If it is requiring poetry, cinematography is having poetry, music is obviously having poetry, or orchestral score or whatever it is having that poetry, and the entire thing is like poetry. Harmony is there, and the entire thing is poetry. If it is requiring a lot of details in a particular scene, in all the scenes combined in that entire movie, we are going for those details. And those details can come from many things, you know. It is not just like a verbose script that is having a lot of details. Rather, a tiny little gesture can contain a lot of details. So all these things made cinema what it is. From this, we are talking about Candid Cinematography Adda Season 2. We look at paintings, we will see there is a story. We look at photographs, we see there is a story in one particular moment captured. We see a landscape, we see there is a story. We see a portrait, we see there is a story. Some people are looking at the person, you know, personality, characteristics, some things, you know, regarding that personality. Sometimes landscape, you're looking at landscape. One particular landscape also can be conveyed in so many different ways. If you just look at the artistic movements, you will see that Impressionists are doing it in a way, Expressionists are doing it in a way. There are different kinds of art movements, you know. They are doing it in that way, you know. So many different ways we have, and we can take inspiration from that, and how we are taking inspiration from that, and how we are conveying it through our story. So you can take inspiration from other things, painting, sculpture, and so many other things, you know. You can take that. You can watch a lot of movies, great masters, classics. You can take inspiration from that, and something you want to show. that is having your particular way of saying that particular script. Great directors, great people, great artists, they have that, their signature style, they have their own way of telling story. So maybe you have a lot of inspiration, and when you are telling your movie or showing something regarding your movie, people know that this is coming from this director, this is coming from this story. And so, a lot of responsibilities, but we enjoy those responsibilities. And it's always better to make the movie rather than talking about it. But sometimes we need motivation, sometimes we need a community where we can discuss all these things. And so, I mean, what else? Composition. If you have one frame, you are composing in one frame. You have the characters, you are doing staging and blocking, you are choosing the shot where you are going for extreme close-up or long shot or mid shot, whatever you are going for. Then if it is a two shot, say two persons are talking, how you are going to capture that, how you are going to cut the shots. Are you going to take a long take? Because a long take is going to have something regarding the story. So it is having, or it is telling the story in a particular way, a long take, a long duration take. If you are cutting, if you are using montage, if it is having short scenes juxtaposed in a montage, or variations of the duration depending on the requirement, it is telling the story in a particular way. Then how you are choosing that, editing styles, composition styles, choosing shots, choosing takes, then in a particular scene how you are depicting that. Not just it is looking great, it is feeling great, but everything is coming together. Editing, non-linear editing, linear editing, then continuity, how we are editing, the sound is coming, then the scene is happening, different types of cuts. We played with all these things, and then cinema happened. Different people had their different inspiration. They played with a lot of things. They came up with their own experimentation, and people got inspired from those things as well. So ultimately, when we talk about cinema, we have all these things. People talk about, we have script writing, we have acting, we have cinematography, we have editing, we have costume design, we have art direction. All these things are there. People are talking about it. They are teaching. They are talking about all these things. But when it comes to storytelling, you have to have that. To tell that story in the best possible way, we understand all these things, and when we are talking about that particular script or that story, from start to end, and sometimes before the start, because we are prepping it really hard. People who are very serious about it, they are really preparing hard for a particular movie. The entire thing, each and every moment we are enjoying while shooting the movie, before shooting the movie, prepping the movie, and after the movie, because we have created something we are proud of, right? So that's why cinematography can play a huge role, but it is not just capturing a particular movie, because a camera is not just supposed to capture something, it is supposed to do something more. In one moment, we have seen in the photographs, it can capture something more. In a movie, we have a lot of responsibilities, because we have this duration, 2 hours, 2.5 hours, 3 hours, whatever you choose to do. Each frame can be a painting, and the way we are telling the story, from capturing the shot, composition, movement, editing, everything, because we are having something in our mind, how we are going to edit, or even if we have the shots, how we are going to edit later. Or sometimes we have the shots because we know with experience that that can have a lot of impact. So later in the editing table, we are deciding what to choose and how to put things together. But constantly we are thinking about the movie while we are working on the movie, and we want to tell it the best possible way. And cinema, it is like an obsession. So if you want to make it really big in cinema, it should be an obsession. It should be an obsession, because this profession requires that obsession. Constantly you are thinking about cinema. You are always immersed in cinema, Then you are writing something, then you are directing something, you are shooting something, whatever you choose to do, cinema, cinema, cinema. We are talking about cinema. And it is not something bad, right? This is what we are supposed to do. Then we can tell a story in a great way. Criticisms will have standards because they will criticize, they will tell things which can have a positive impact, something constructive, something people can work on, something we can discuss, something we can argue. That person will say something, we will say something, and eventually we will understand, okay, that was the thing, Discussions. These things we require, as artists, as creative professionals. So, we will do few episodes, but we will talk about things in a different way. Not just techniques, not just the camera, not just the lenses, not just this and that, but what impact it can have in storytelling.